Have you ever wondered how maths could help us to reach an informed decision, which in turn could help us to win a game? No? So stay tuned with me, because in this video, we will look into one of the most interesting concepts of mathematics, that is game theory, which since its emergence in mid-1950s has found applications in various real-life situations. In this video, you will get to know how game theory shapes our day-to-day life decisions, and might be it could be possible that next time when you encounter such decisions, game theory could help you to reach an informed decision and get an edge over your rival. So before diving into our principal question of how game theory could help us to take rational decisions, let's first get an idea what really game theory is and why it has been such a subject of great importance. So in simple words, if I have to define what really game theory is, then it's simply maths behind decision making. These decisions can be of anything, can range from you and your friend going to an auction room and deciding what bid you should make for the painting, or a war-like situation where two countries are deciding whether they should go for a war or not. All these situations can be quantified through designing mathematical models, and rational and informed decisions could be made once we start studying all these situations through the prism of mathematical tool that we are undertaking right now, that is game theory. Game theory is one of the most important concepts in mathematical economics. Its importance can be understood from the fact that till now, 12 game theorists have been awarded Nobel Prize for their contribution to this field, and most pioneer among them is Dr. John Nash, a 1994 Nobel laureate who revolutionized the concept of game theory by his research paper on non-cooperative game. So there is an Oscar-winning movie called A Beautiful Mind, released in 2001, where actor Russell Crowe has portrayed the remarkable journey of Dr. John Nash, how he went on to become one of the legends of his field. So if you are interested to know more about John Nash, you can watch this movie. So now let's get to the main theme of our video, where we will play the game called Prisoner Dilemma. Prisoner Dilemma is one of the classical examples of game theory. And trust me, this game is quite relatable to our daily life experiences, where two players strategically interact with each other, and more often, instead of maximizing their benefits, they actually end up being on the losing side just because of their insecurities related to the decisions being taken up by the सामने वाला person. And hence, they end up opting those strategies which seems quite irrational if seen from the purview of third person. So here we have got Amar and Prem with us. So the situation is that Amar and Prem are being accused of robbery by the police, and the police have got no evidence against them, but decide to take both burglars to separate rooms and give them the chance to confess for their crime. But there is one condition, that Amar and Prem cannot communicate with each other in order to decide whether to confess or not. Each of the burglars know the following three options available to them. The first option is that if both of them confess, each one will get 2 years of prison. Second option is that if none of them confesses, each one will get 1 year of prison. And the third option is that if one of them confesses and the other one does not, the confessor gets 2 years of prison because he is rewarded by the police because of the information he has provided to the police, and the non-confessor gets 3 years of prison because he had to pay for the entire crime himself. Building on these three options, we will now develop the game in 3 stages. In the first stage, we would set the game where we will define the strategies that Amar and Prem could possibly take and the situation resulting from their possible strategies. In the second stage, we will quantify the game. And in the third stage, we will finally solve the game and will find that who ultimately emerge out as the winner and who in reality loses. So let's set the game. Here we have got two players with us, Amar and Prem, and each have got 2 strategies, either to confess or remain silent. Depending on the strategies taken up by the Amar and Prem, we have got possible 4 situations. Situation 1 illustrates the scenario when Prem confesses and Amar does not. So Prem knows that if Amar does not confesses, then it would be in his interest to confess. And if he collaborates with the police by confessing, police would set him free. Situation 2 is that when Amar confesses and Prem do not. So Amar knows that if Prem do not confesses, then it would be in his interest to confess, because if he collaborates with the police by confessing, police would set him free. Situation 3 depicts the scenario when both Amar and Prem confesses, and hence both betrays each other by collaborating confessing the police. Hence both end up getting nothing. Situation 4 depicts the scenario when Amar and Prem do not confess together. Here, both succeeded not to conceive any evidence to the police against them. Hence, police, because of the lack of the evidence, could not hold them in prison. So now we are well versed with the strategies and all possible situations. We now move to the next stage of our game, that is quantification of the game. Here we will quantify the 4 situations that we discussed in the previous stage and will list down the 4 situations in the form of the table. So before listing down it in the form of the game theory table, we will list down the possible outcomes again and will allot them the points according to the preferences and benefits they incur to both the players. Although these points have been allotted randomly, but one thing needs to be kept in mind. The highest preferred action would be allotted highest point and so on. So these actions are allotted points in such a way that their points reflect their relative preferences. So our first action, where both player confesses, resulting into each getting 2 years of prison, will earn 2 points each to both Amar and Prem. Our second action, where none of them confesses and as a result each have to serve only 1 year in prison, this action will earn them 5 points each. And our third action, where one of the players betrays the other by confessing, hence collaborating with the police, that person will be set free and will be awarded 10 points. Whereas the other player who remains silent will have to spend 3 years in jail and will be awarded 0 points. So now, as we are versed with the possible actions and points that action will earn for the respective players, we are ready to construct a game theory table. The purpose behind constructing this table is to find, as this table will help us to reach to the best possible approach that should be undertaken by both the players. So in column side, we have listed Prem's action, that is to confess and betrays Amar, or not to confess and remain silent. And similarly on the row side, we have listed Amar's response to confess or not to confess. And accordingly, as Amar and Prem interact and opt for different strategies, we have listed down the points as per their relative action. So we have 4 boxes here, and each box has got 2 color schemes, where yellow color represents points earned by Prem because of his relative strategy, and blue color represents points earned by Amar because of his strategy related to Prem's action. In first box, that depicts the outcome 1, where both Amar and Prem confesses and serve 2 years of prison. Both are awarded 2 points each. The second box depicts the scenario where Prem did not confess and Amar betrays by confessing, and the outcome is that Amar is set free and Prem have to be in prison for next 3 years. So here, Amar has been awarded 10 points and Prem has been awarded 0. The third box depicts the scenario, just the opposite of what we have observed in box 2. Here, Amar decides not to confess, but Prem betrays him by confessing. So, Prem has been set free with 10 points and Amar has been awarded 0 points and 3 years to serve in jail. And the fourth box depicts the scenario when both Amar and Prem remain silent and do not confess. So in this case, police can hold them in prison for only 1 year on the ground of suspicion, and here both are awarded 5 points each. So with these 4 outcomes, what do you think? Which one would be the best option for Amar and Prem? Which outcome Amar and Prem should choose? I know most of you would be thinking of outcome 4. And there is nothing wrong about outcome 4 because it's the best option available to them. But do you know what Amar and Prem have chosen? Any guess? It's the outcome 1. Surprised? I know most of you would be surprised if Amar and Prem have got the option to remain silent and serve only 1 year in prison, then why would they choose the outcome 1? कौन बेवकूफ होगा जो 1 साल की जगह 3 साल जेल में रहकर आए? To know the reason कि how Amar and Prem can commit such a mistake, we move to our next and final stage of the game, that is solving the game. And this is the most interesting part of any game, which will help us to understand the psychology and the reason behind any decision. It will help us to grab the understanding that if decision A is taken, then why only A is taken? And if decision B is not taken, then why is it so? Like here, Amar and Prem are taking decision whether to confess or not. So they are making their strategy not independently, but in anticipation of the action and reaction of other player. And the same approach is being taken by the other player too, कि वो सोचता है कि सामने वाला प्लेयर क्या क्या डिसीजंस ले सकता है और उसके हिसाब से मेरे पास क्या क्या मेरे पास सबसे बेस्ट डिसीजन क्या हो सकता है. And this strategic interaction between two players lead to the creation of such a confusion where both players are tempted to commit the same kind of mistake as Amar and Prem did, where they instead of maximizing their benefits, they go for minimizing their maximum losses. So here we will look into the best strategy Amar and Prem can have, knowing the fact that सामने वाले player के पास क्या-क्या options है. If I put it simply, then अमर की strategy इस बात पर depend करती है कि प्रेम की strategies क्या-क्या हो सकती है. And similarly, प्रेम की strategy इस बात पर depend करती है कि अमर की strategies क्या-क्या हो सकती है. Like if we see the best strategy for Amar, so Amar would think कि प्रेम क्या-क्या strategy ले सकता है और इसके हिसाब से मेरी best strategy क्या हो सकती है. So Prem have got two options, either to confess or not to confess. So suppose Prem do not confess us. So what could be the best possible strategy Amar can have? Obviously, Amar would see his own benefits. So he will confess and will be released immediately. And in this case, he won't have to spend any years in jail and also would be awarded 10 points. So what if Prem confesses? So in this situation too, Amar would confess also to save himself from serving 3 years in jail, because 2 years of prison would always be better than 3 years of jail. Similarly, the same approach is taken by Prem when strategizing his decision. He anticipates what could be the possible strategy Amar can have, and accordingly, he designed his strategy depending upon Amar's strategy. So his best strategy is also to confess every time, irrespective of the fact कि अमर ने क्या strategy अपनाई है, because he know that the best way he can counter Amar's strategy is by confessing every time. Since we are equipped with the fact that both Amar's and Prem's best strategy is to confess so that they can minimize their maximum loss, that is 3 years of prison. But seeing the game theory table, we know that this is not the best outcome for both the players. The best outcome would be to become partners, remain silent, and just serve 1 year of prison. But the issue with this scenario is that here both players have got incentive to deviate. The incentive is to get freedom from prison. Suppose both players become partner and agreed not to confess. Now think from Amar's side. Amar ये सोचेगा कि मैंने तो एग्रीमेंट कर दी है प्रेम के साथ. अब इतना तो पक्का है कि प्रेम कन्फेस नहीं करेगा, पर मैं प्रेम को धोखा देके कन्फेस कर लूंगा और फिर मैं जेल के बंदिशों से आजाद हो जाऊंगा और प्रेम जेल में रहेगा. और मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ता है कि प्रेम 2 साल जेल में रहे या 3 साल, ये उसकी प्रॉब्लम है, कम से कम मैं तो आजाद हो जाऊँ. एंड द सेम अप्रोच इज ऑल्सो टेकन बाई प्रेम. प्रेम भी इसी तरीके से सोचेगा एंड अल्टीमेटली डिस्पाइट ऑफ द फैक्ट कि अमर और प्रेम ने एग्रीमेंट कर रखी है कि कन्फेस नहीं करनी है, बट अल्टीमेटली दोनों ही कन्फेस करेंगे एंड दिस विल लीड देम टू आउटकम वन वेयर both of them will make their collective loss. Although outcome one is not the best and the efficient outcome for them, but it's stable as from here no one have got any incentive to deviate. और जहाँ तक outcome 2 और 3 की बात है, तो both the outcomes are unstable and impossible to achieve because do not confess is not among the best strategies of Amar and Prem. So with this, we reach to the conclusion that no matter what other player does, Amar and Prem independently always chooses the option to confess, because by adopting this tactic, they can minimize their maximum loss by getting into zero-sum game. And this way, how both players reach to the best option, that is outcome 1, which is also called Nash equilibrium. Although it's not the optimal choice available to both players, but it is still the best response one player can have to counter the strategy of other player, because from here no player has got any incentive to deviate. This Amar Prem prisoner dilemma is one of the many daily life situations which can be best understood with the help of game theory. With this, I would like to thank you for giving your time, and I hope you have liked this video. Thank you once again.